Welcome to episode 107 of the Family Answer Man podcast. Today, we're looking at understanding the dangers of manipulation and control in families from a biblical worldview on the Family Answer Man podcast. I'm David Orgis, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Crosby. He is a pastor, educator, mental health professional, and our resident expert here on the Family Answer Man podcast. Family Answer Man is not a therapy session. We're not able to give specific advice to your unique circumstances, but we do know that mental health and spiritual health are very important. And so I want to encourage you, if you have more questions after this episode, go ahead and seek out professional counsel. Right now, before we jump in, if you would hit that notification bell, subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Family Answer Man, that would be awesome. And if you'll rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts and your favorite way to stream those, that helps us out a lot. Gets us to the top of people's feed and helps more people discover this show. So if you'll do that, that'd be awesome. And you can always just invite your family and your friends to join you on this journey of building stronger, healthier, happier families. Well, Dr. Mark, good to be here with you today.
Yes, indeed.
And we have a good show in store, good question.
Yes.
As we said, looking at the helping people understand the dangers of manipulation and control in families. I think a lot of people probably know what manipulation and control might look like at work or in a social setting. Do you feel like it's almost camouflaged when it's in a family setting, or is it pretty obvious?
Yeah, as we said before, that there's going to be some degree of coaching, there's going to be some degree of consulting, there's going to be some degree of counseling in every family, and therefore there'll be some degree of control. You want to, have bedtimes, and you want to have, supper times, and you want to have certain rules and regulations in the family. And that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is when a person in the family, namely in many cases the father, doesn't always have to, but often is, that has this far-reaching control of the teenager or the spouse especially. When I say the teenager, what I mean is the teenager wants to major maybe one day in English. And the father says, absolutely not. We're all engineers in this family. You will major in engineering. And so it kind of takes away that sense of independence, that sense of autonomy, that sense of interest. If the husband says to the wife, you'll only wear dresses, when you're here, I don't want you wearing, pants or whatever. You'll only wear what I tell you to wear. You'll only drive what I tell you to drive. You'll vote the way I want you to vote. This is basically a type of control. And sometimes it's a coercive control, whereby if I do not follow what dad wants, in this case, if I do not major in engineering, if I don't go to the right college, if I don't vote the right way, if I don't, play the right sport, then I will be punished. I'll be shunned. I won't be welcomed. I won't be blessed by my dad. And this type of coercive control really does cause a lot of emotional and relational and psychological problems in the lives of most people. And so sometimes we're not even aware of it, as dads, as parents, of the level of control that we're putting over onto our teenager. I know Dr. Philip Stahl once wrote that, in working with teenagers, especially in dealing with custody issues, sometimes the teenager wants everyone to know, especially if they're 16, 17 years old, this is my life. This is not the lawyer's life. This is not the judge's life. This is not the evaluator's life. This is my life, and I want to play sports, or I want to, work, after school, or I want to, save money to buy a car. This is my life. And so my point is that if what someone is doing would be considered, moral, legal, wholesome, legitimate, etc., then we need to be very careful as to how much control that we put in someone's life, especially in the older adolescent life, and or our spouse's life. Yeah. When we tell them, hey, you cannot work, or you have to work, or you're gonna have one child, or we're gonna have 10 kids, or whatever it may be. Right. But that level of control, where there's no discussion or negotiation, can sometimes be very damaging emotionally and psychologically.
So when you say coercive control throughout this time that we have, the question that we're going to talk about, that's what you're talking about. This is not instilling values and core beliefs. No. This is really making sure that somebody does what you want them to do, and in a way that if they don't, there's some sort of retribution.
Consequence, threat of punishment.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, that leads us to our question. And if you want to have your question answered on air on the show, we would love to do that. You can email us, familyanswerman@liveoak.church. familyanswerman@liveoak.church is how you get in touch with us, and we would love to answer your question. The one that we have for today says this. It says, I was raised in a cult. We were told what to wear, who our friends could be, if we could have a TV. We were told if we could vote, what our hobbies could be, and what holidays we could participate in or celebrate. I left that cult when I turned 18, and I was shunned by family and friends. When I got married at age 25, I discovered that my husband's family was extremely controlling. They're telling us how to vote, whether or not I should work, how many children we should have, and where and how often we should go to church. This feels similar to the cult that I left. Is there a technical term for this, and can we get past it?
Wow. Yeah, the technical term, as we mentioned a while ago, is called curse of control. And here's what we need to understand. I think one of the symptoms of our sin nature is the desire to control or enslave others. We've seen this down through history. The desire to enslave other people, the desire to control other people. Tyrannical governments basically come to power, and first thing they want to do is control the population. And so this is something that I would argue is a part of our sin nature. And what happens is, for example, when governments who want power over others, or when governments want to enslave other people, we look back over history and we realize, that was a terrible thing.
Right.
We abhor slavery, and therefore we have this great love for freedom and for autonomy and for independence. Our nation is built upon the desire to be free, the desire to be independent. And the reason for that is because being controlled or being enslaved or being owned is something that we just resist. It is, again, a part of our nature to want freedom, and a part of our nature to want independence, and a part of our nature to want this sense of liberty. And so we resist enslavement. We resist being controlled by others. Because reality is this, the result of human nature, as you said a while ago, is to want to control others. That's part of our sinful humanity. And because this is such a universal, scenario, because we see this down through history, we have put up, boundaries, and we fought wars, and we have, made laws so that a person would not be controlled or enslaved, etc. But if we're not careful, this desire for control over other people will bleed into facets of our life that we never think about as far as being controlled. For example, and people who listen to this, who go to church, may have seen this in their own churches, but over the years I've witnessed where church members of various churches have tried to control, say, the pastor or staff member.
Tell me how you know this.
and after being involved with this for 37 years, you see it. And the thing is, people don't think of it in these terms necessarily, but I've seen, people in churches, who have said, we're going to tell the pastor where they should live. We're going to tell the pastor whether or not he can buy a new car.
Wow.
We're going to tell the pastor whether or not his wife should volunteer. We're going to tell the pastor whether or not his daughter should be on the cheerleading team or not. We'll tell the pastor whether or not his daughter can serve on the dance team. We'll tell the pastor how he can and cannot dress on his days off in public. If he wears shorts, if he wears a tank top, if he wears, knee-high socks, if he wears a hat, we're going to tell him how he can and cannot dress. And the reality is, I'll argue this is a level of control that, again, comes out of our sin nature, because there's something inside of us that wants to control other people. We want to do that. We have this sinful nature that again seeks to do that. And so the point is, the level of control and power that you want to have over other people sometimes becomes addictive. There's maybe that key person in the church that basically whatever he says goes. And if he says the pastor can't buy a new car, well, that pastor can't buy a new car. Or if he says that pastor's wife better volunteer in the nursery, she better volunteer in the nursery, or we'll have to have a meeting about this. That's coercive control.
Yeah.
Because what that's doing is that's saying we're going to tell you what you can and cannot do beyond your employment, beyond what is required of you as an employee of the church or whatever, because there's nothing in the Bible that says thou shalt have a wife that will play the piano in thy sanctuary. That's not there.
The 11th commandment.
But somehow, somewhere, some way, there are people in churches who believe that, thou oldest daughter shall be thy nursery worker for no pay, for the next 10, That's not in the scripture.
Yeah.
But somewhere, some way, somehow, there are church members who want to do that and bring this sense of control into the pastor's life. Next, we see this in families.
Okay.
Maybe there's a patriarch. Maybe there is a matriarch who wants to control, who all goes on the vacation, who all comes to for the holiday, what the holiday plans will be. There's a patriarch or matriarch that will tell you what university your child should attend. Again, what major they'll have while they're attending university, what sport they will play in high school. I've seen many, many times where a family will say, we're a football family.
That's right.
You will not play basketball in this family. We're a football family. And the son or daughter's going, but I want to play basketball. I don't want to play softball. I don't want to play football. I want to play basketball. No, you're going to play what we tell you to play. And so again, we don't think of that, in a negative, connotation or negative term, but that is a type of coercive control. It's taken away the sense of autonomy, the sense of independence, the sense of personal goal and desire from someone who says, I really feel strong about this. We see this sometimes in marriages where, again, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, the husband's trying to control the wife, what she will or will not do, whether she'll have more children, whether she works or stays home. And when there is violence or abuse or intimidation or manipulation, this is called coercive control. And it's a very serious situation. It's something that we see more than we realize. And it's something that we kind of gloss over. It's something that is there, that everybody knows is there, but we don't think of it in a negative or even a traumatic way, but it really can be. When you are being coercively controlled by someone, if someone's telling you something beyond the employee handbook, something beyond what the Bible says, something beyond what the law says, when somebody's trying to make you do something or say something, again, that is coercive control, especially if there is a sense of punishment.
Yeah.
If the pastor says, well, honey, you have to play the piano because if you don't play the piano, they're going to fire me.
Right.
Well, that's coercive control.
And that is not healthy.
No, it's not healthy. But unfortunately, we see that in churches all the time. We see it in families. So coercive control basically is simply, it is asserting power. It's asserting dominance. It's asserting control over another person. And in many cases, as we said before, it's using aggression, abuse, or intimidation for the person who wants to be in control to get their way. We see it called, in some cases, a dictatorship. We see it called, in some cases, being tyrannical. We see it in some cases, again, being cult-like. And so, again, when you look at your cults, we'll just take a little sidebar for a moment, but if you look at your cults like David Koresh and the Branch Davidians, or the People's Temple and Jim Jones in 1978 and the Branch Davidians in 1993. When you see these cults, which are two popular, situations that most of us can recall or remember to some degree, or you can Google it and see what happened. But these individuals, these cult leaders were simply that. They used coercive control to sway their members, to intimidate them, to get them to do what they wanted to do, to help them to move, to make them move, to turn over their money, to turn over, in some cases, their family, in some cases, turn over their very wives, to the submission, to be submitted to Koresh or Jim Jones. And so this level of control and dictatorship and, again, these despots, these tyrants, would take over and rob a person of any type of liberty, freedom, independence, or autonomy. So this is very important to note. So again, it's described as a dictatorship. Compliance is instilled through the threat of punishment. Again, if you do not do what we tell you to do, you will be punished. You will be cast out. You will be disfellowshipped. You will be excommunicated. Maybe you'll be fired. Your well-being or welfare will be, in jeopardy. And so this type of threat, this type of punishment, again, adds to this coercive control. In marriages, some cases, it's domestic violence. Domestic violence, again, is often the result of coercive control, where, again, the husband uses violence, uses intimidation, sometimes uses extreme aggression or abuse, and it's ongoing to where, again, the wife will do exactly what he says because she fears this sense of punishment on a physical level.
Yeah.
In a psychological level, coercive control is this. There's a sense of shunning. A lot of cults will do that. If you do not abide by what we say to you, we will shun you.
Which sounds like the question that wrote in today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We will not allow you to be a part of our fellowship. We will not allow you to be part of our gathering, our reunions, our holidays, our religious ceremonies, whatever it may be. And there's a sense of shunning. Second of all, another psychological tactic used by those who are in coercive control. So if you're just tuning in, we're talking about those individuals who want to control you in their families or in other settings, that is isolation. You'll be isolated, very similar to being shunned, but you will not be welcomed. You will not be invited. Micro-regulation. Micro-regulation. In other words, we want to micromanage your every thought, your every move, what you wear, what you drive, how you cut your hair, whatever it may be. And this micro-regulation, again, is often beyond what you will see in most, again, job descriptions or in most handbooks, etc. People will withdraw from you. They will threaten you. So these psychological tactics of coercive control are very real, not only in the family, but also in some cases in the house of worship, the fellowship, in the extended family, etc. Also, too, there is an emotional psychological abuse that takes place with coercive control. That is sometimes deriding. They will say things about you. They will talk about you. They will create triangles against you. They will tell you just how terrible you are. How dare you hurt, the matriarch? How dare you speak against the patriarch? How dare you question, the pastor or the ruler or the deacon or the chair of deacons? How dare you, say anything about the decision? So you're derided. You're made to feel as if you have no voice. You're made to feel as if you have no input. You're made to feel as if you have no choice or say in the matter. So that's one of the emotional psychological abuses of the coercive control. Next is you're humiliated. Maybe you're embarrassed. Maybe you're brought up before your peers and you're not expected this. Many times you're ambushed. You're brought into a situation and you have no idea what's about to happen. And then all of a sudden you are humiliated and ambushed in front of maybe colleagues, friends, peers. And sometimes the peers or the friends have no idea what's about to happen. They just know that this is going to be said or this is being said about you. So you're humiliated. Maybe things that were said in secret or in confidence is now being expressed. Another emotional psychological abuse of those who are involved in coercive control, if you're just tuning in, is there's emotional coldness. The emotional coldness. There is no warmth. There is no handshakes. There is no good mornings. There is no greeting. There's just nothing along those lines. Denying and blaming. The person involved in coercive control will blame you for the reason why you're experiencing this, or they will deny that they're doing anything wrong. They undermine you. If you say, but I think I have some evidence that points to what you're saying is not accurate, they'll try to undermine that. They will say that you maybe manipulated the evidence, or maybe you are changing things around. Fault finding. Again, when you ask them, so tell me what I did wrong, they'll say, well, I think maybe you sneezed during the prayer. Well, I'm sorry. But it's this fault finding. Anything we can possibly come up with, as trivial as it may be,
right,
as insignificant as it may be, as egregious or I shouldn't say egregious, but as minimal as it may be, that you did something egregious that no one would really look to or recognize as being a problem. But fault finding, we're going to try to find something wrong with you. They did this to Jesus,
Right.
trying to find some fault. When Pilate says, I can find no fault in him, they're going to say, well, maybe I think he said this, and didn't he do something on the Sabbath? And he said, that he'll destroy the temple or whatever. So anything they can do to find fault. Next, he'll interrogate you. So there's this interrogating, where they constantly, just badger you. Did you do this? Did you really say you wouldn't do it? Did you, why didn't you, make your wife play the piano? Why did you, why is your daughter on the cheerleading team? We all know that's a sin. It's somewhere in the Bible, right? And so there's this, interrogating. So again, the bottom line is coercive control wants to micromanage your daily life and your daily routines. And there's where the problem comes. And so in this question, this woman is asking, she came out of a cult.
Right.
And again, in most cults, they want to micromanage everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Whether you go to college, whether you vote, whether you have a car, whatever it may be. And so what's happening is she left this cult and she marries this man. And now this family, her husband comes out of, is basically doing the same thing. And so now she's being triggered.
Right. I would say that's very triggering. That's very overwhelming.
It is triggering. It's overwhelming. And she recognizes it for what it is because she was raised in this very coercive, controlled environment. So again, what else it does is this. So not only is your life being micromanaged, but it restricts your basic decision making. We have decisions we have to make every day. And if we're not allowed to make choices, if we're not allowed to make decisions, if the husband or if, the leader or if the whomever is now trying to make all our decisions for us, it restricts our basic God-given right to make autonomous, independent decisions. Therefore, it limits your activities or choices. And it decides also, coercive control tries to decide your leisure activities. I meet so many people who say, well, I haven't had a day off, in 10 weeks. Well, why is that? Well, because I was told that I couldn't, that if I don't work every day, if I'm not, working, every holiday, if I don't work, then somewhere, some way, somehow, I'm not doing a good job.
Right. Or somebody will love to have the job that you have.
Right. Yeah. So again, this is what happens with coercive control. It deprives people of their privacy. I've had people, really struggle with the fact that, you shouldn't keep secrets. Well, okay. Secrets are some things that, again, that if kept, may affect others, but there's certain things that are private. And there's a difference between privacy and secrecy.
Yes.
And not only that, but coercive control stirs up paranoia. Who can I trust? Do I really have the right to be independent? Do I really have the right to being autonomous and having some autonomy? Do I really have the right to make up my own mind, to make up my own decision? Maybe I don't like a blue car. Maybe I should have a white car. Maybe everybody tells me my car should be white. So I guess, but I always love the blue car, but I guess they're right. Maybe I shouldn't have a blue car. And so it stirs up some paranoia and some indecisiveness within you. Sometimes coercive control creates isolation from family, friends, and professionals. Sometimes if someone finds out that maybe you're seeing a physician or maybe you're seeing a counselor or maybe you're seeing a dentist, that somewhere, some way, somehow they will try to control you and keep you from family, friends, or professionals. Sometimes they'll try to keep you from going to another community of faith. The primary problem of coercive control, again, is this. It creates an environment of anxiety and stress. So if you're just tuning in, those who are involved in coercive control, they say things like, I'm always walking on eggshells. I never, ever feel as if I am in a good place. I never feel confident. I never feel safe. I never feel as if, I'm a part or I'm secure. I'm always walking on eggshells. And coercive control people feel like their confidence is always being undermined. So someone's always in control. So here's the goal, again, for those who are just tuning in, for those who are involved in coercive control and those who want to control others. Their goal,
coercive control being manipulation and,
right.
And control.
Exactly. So those who want to control you in a coercive manner, those who want to manipulate, their goal simply is this. They're wanting you to abandon your goals, your wishes, your hopes. They're wanting you to abandon your dreams, your interests, your desires. They're wanting you to abandon your decisions about life. So again, the emphasis, once again, of coercive control is domination. In other words, they want to turn their spouse or their children or whomever into their property.
Well, yeah. I mean, you talk about goals, hopes, wishes, dreams, desires, all those things. Those are the core of who we are as human beings.
Right.
That's our very personality. And if
Right.
that's stripped away, you just become, an extension of the person that's controlling.
Exactly. And that's how the coercive controlling person is. They want you, again, to basically be their property. And that's why I meet so many pastors and politicians fall into this to some degree. And that is, they feel like, hey, I am owned. I am the property of. I'm not an employee. I'm not a servant of the Lord. I am owned by this group or this group of people or by this person. And so they feel like more like property than they feel like an employee. They feel like more like property than they feel like a son or daughter. They feel more like property than they feel like a wife or a spouse. So here are the results of being in a coercive control environment. If you're just tuning in, here's what happens to an individual who is coercively controlled over months and years. Number one, they have a distorted view of reality. They have a very distorted view of reality. They have not really seen that they can make decisions. And so they have this distorted view of reality. Number two, they have a confusion over ordinary freedoms. You really mean I can vote? Or you really mean I can choose where I go to college or if I go to college? You really mean I can choose, what I put on and wear today? So there's this, again, a confusion over ordinary freedoms. They also do not have the freedom to think critically. In other words, a person who is been coercively controlled most of their life, they don't know how to think critically. They don't know how to ask questions. They don't know how to examine to see if something's accurate or true. Not only that, fourthly, if you're keeping count, they have lots of trauma triggers. Again, like this woman who wrote in a moment ago, she was raised in a cult, and now she's seeing how her husband came from a family who's extremely controlling. So this is something which she's able to recognize, and obviously it triggered something inside of her. Those who've been coercively controlled lack love, have a lack of love and respect. In other words, they are not quite sure. They're told how to love, or they're told they must respect, and they don't have the ability to choose for themselves. So there's this lack of love and respect. Number six, they're limited, or they feel like they're limited in their opportunities. They feel like they're limited in their opportunities as far as what I can do, the purpose I can fulfill. They have a loss of self-esteem. They don't feel that they have any value just because of who they are. Their value comes from who they're married to or the leader of the organization, etc. They have a risk of, they risk educational opportunities. A lot of these people who have been coercively controlled most of their life do not have the educational opportunity or resource. Next, many of them have multiple mental health issues, depression, anxiety, paranoia. And many of them are vulnerable to sexual abuse or exploitation. So real quickly, what can be done? If you just tuned in, what can be done if you're involved in this? Number one, create some boundaries.
Okay.
Number two, it's okay to find a counselor and get some counseling. Number three, recognize this is not healthy for you. Create some guardrails, rules of what you will and will not allow in your life. Seek what is healthy. Know what Jesus said as you read the Gospels. Look at the grace and truth He provided. Look how He pushed back against the Pharisees who wanted to control Him. And recognize that you were not made to be controlled by others. We are given the ability to choose. We're given the ability to make choices based on Scripture as we seek wisdom and as we seek a multitude of counselors, because the Bible makes it real clear. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty.
That's
You've
right.
been made by God. You've been made for God. You've been made to live a life pleasing to God. And so the only one you have to please is God Himself. Let God be the one that you seek to serve, and be careful and beware of those who want to control you and manipulate you in a coercive sort of way where they're threatening punishment, because you are made to be free. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty.
Well, there you have it from the family answer man himself. Hopefully you will take this, you will apply this to your life, and know that God has designed you for freedom, and that the slavery and control that others want to place on you is not of him. We hope that this episode, as always, of the Family Answer Man will help you to have stronger, healthier, happier families.